the more the more depth and meaning will come into our lives. Let's move on to another question, shall we? Why am I fatigued and tired so easily and often? And how can I increase my energy? Okay, let's start with the first part. Why am I fatigued and tired so easily and often? So many reasons why. I'm going to skip the obvious things as it relates to nutrition and so on and so forth, and I'm going to go straight for the jugular. One of the main reasons people become fatigued and tired could be to do with chronic stress and how drained we become over time because of toxicity within the body, because of stress and the stress hormones, cortisol, that floods the body, that influences our hormones, that change and lowers our metabolic rate, that inhibits our quality of sleep and our ability to function and think clearly. And we want to remove that foggy brain. We want to think clearly. We want to change our energy, but we can't change our energy if most of our day is filled with negativity, with negative thoughts, subsequent negative feelings and chemicals that are released in the brain and body, and the hormonal effects that it have as well. It's a whole system that needs to be addressed here. So how can you become less fatigued? Start with your thoughts. Understand that you are not your thoughts. You are only the thoughts that you associate with and that you believe to be true. Yeah, we think between 60 to 70,000 thoughts every single day, and only up to 90% of the thoughts we think today are the same as yesterday. Why? Because we do the same sort of things every single day. We fire the same neural nets in our brains every single day. We think of the same associations, the same cues, the same triggers, and we look to release the same kind of patterns and perceive things in the same sort of ways. People, things, places might change, but our own patterns won't change unless we change. So one of the reasons you might be fatigued and tired so easily is because you're doing the same sort of things every single day. There's no newness. You're not activating your frontal lobe. Your frontal lobe, which is the seat of your conscious awareness, essentially your personality, the CEO within your brain. Your best self is when your frontal lobe is activated. That can only get galvanized and really stimulated if there are novel and stimulating things happening in front of you. New experiences, new places, learning new things. The frontal lobe, here, right at the front of the brain, will switch on. And when that is switched on, you're making new connections in your brain. You are fully focused and you're ready to absorb and create new meanings. But if you're not doing new things, if you're not challenging yourself, if you're not stepping outside of your comfort zone, what's going to happen is that frontal lobe that we should cherish and take care of, that will stop working. And when that stops working, essentially the other areas in the brain, the more unconscious areas in the brain, will give rise and will start to just do what comes automatically, what's inherent and easy to do. What are the prevalent and prominent mental hardwiring that we have accumulated over years and generations from our ancestors and so on and so forth, and biologically too. So we're talking about our primitive drives. These are all the sort of things that galvanize and influence our energy levels. And if we're not doing new things, if we're not challenging ourselves, if we're not laughing, smiling, making time for flow-inducing behaviors, things that we enjoy doing where we get immersed in it so much that we lose track of time and we become so immersed and absorbed in what we're doing that nothing else can distract us or deter us from our path and so on. If we're not doing these sort of things, we're going to keep repeating the same behaviors, and then monotony and boredom seeps in. And when that happens, negativity and the ego will infiltrate into our mental and emotional processes. So one of the best ways to overcome fatigued and feeling tired is changing what you're doing every single day. Doing new things, partaking in new hobbies, right? They can be small or seemingly significant things that we change about ourselves. But it's going to require change. We need to be different. Otherwise, we're going to keep repeating the same things of the past. And as Albert Einstein, says, you're not going to solve today's problems with the same thinking that created those problems, right? So that's the main thing, right? And now why am I fatigued and tired? Address your sleeping patterns. Sleep is so important. Sleep is, if you don't have good quality sleep, you know how your frontal lobe cools down and switches off when you are sleeping, and your more unconscious and irrational side kind of comes to fruition, comes to the forefront and takes over. It's like the guards have gone to sleep when you fall asleep, and the animals or the creatures start to come out, and that's where you start to have these vivid dreams. But you need that. And if you don't have that, then you start to hallucinate in real life. You start to become really paranoid and develop these mental illnesses and so on and so forth because of poor quality sleep. So how can you induce quality sleep? Things like exercise, things like learning, challenging yourself, growing. How can you sleep better? Have a nighttime ritual. Eat quality foods. Don't have caffeine too late in the day. Don't eat a large meal right before bed. But also simultaneously, don't go to bed so hungry as well, because that can ruin your sleep quality too. See how all of these things are linked, guys. So yes, sleep is massive as it relates to giving us our energy. And our relationships are key. Have quality relationships based on unconditional love. These are the ways we can develop trust, feel stable, feel relaxed, and therefore grow and be more creative and try new things, because we have that. We become more self-actualized and we take more responsibility and we feel like we can grow, and there's space to grow. There's space to do new things. But we can't feel like that if the hormones of stress are constantly being turned on. All right. I'll quickly address some more of the obvious things. Fatigued and tired. Think about your supplementation. Things like B vitamins. Brewer's yeast, for example, gives natural source of B vitamins to have more energy. Get your vitamin C. Have things like zinc, magnesium, fish oils. As it relates to your brain, get DHA in the form of krill oil and so on and so forth. These supplements are amazing for the brain and body. Look after the brain and consequently look after the heart. Look after your heart health and look after the brain. There is a feedback loop between the two. So supplementation is really important. Give yourself the right nutrients. Calcium for your bones, for your cells. Get enough potassium for your cellular function as well. I mean, it's so important, guys. You have to look after yourself. It's so important. I told you about exercise, but you also need to look after your brain cells as well. So you can ruin your existing brain cells by overtraining, grief, too much sugar in your diet and carbohydrates in your diet. What else? The hormones of stress. Poor sleep quality can literally kill and harm your neurons and your bodily cells as well, of course, by changing your gene expression, by leading to free radicals within your cells. Then your cells stop working properly. They stopped taking in the right nutrients and vitamins that keep it alive and energized. So these are some of the key ways that you can change your energy levels. How can you increase your energy? Exercise consistently, but not every workout being highly intense. Otherwise, you're going to overtrain, and that can lead to DOMS and like soreness, and that can ruin your energy levels, your focus, make you feel like ruin your mood. If you ruin your mood, you ruin your thoughts and your feelings, and that. Such a knock-on effect, right? I hope you're getting a gist of this. And these are some of the ways that you can increase your energy. Okay, let's move on. Quick sip. Next question. How can I recover more quickly from stressful situations? How can you recover more quickly from stressful situations? Notice when the stress response is being triggered and turned on. So spot the signs early. Change your associations to things. Well, conditioning happens in many forms all over the place. We look for cues in the external environment, and then we start to react, and we start to turn on certain patterns. If a certain person, one person can walk into the room that you're in right now, and it can completely change your emotional state, right? It can make you angry, right? Because you associate someone with certain past memories that trigger the feelings of anger. Or you can connect one person and see similarities in that person from someone within your past, and that can trigger certain memories, right? But the other way around as well. Someone whom you adore, revere, appreciate can walk into a room, and that can change your associations and how you perceive them. And that can change your mood, your state of being, and so on and so forth. So change your associations. That's why I teach NLP based strategies as well. Change what things mean to you. Change the language you use with yourself. Change the images in your mind. Change the way you perceive events. You can adapt these things as well, and therefore you change your associations. So therefore it's going to be harder to trigger the stress response, because the more we create these toxic programs mentally and emotionally, chemically in the brain and body, the more we do it, the easier it is to trigger. So sometimes early on in an experience, after an experience, you'll start to reimagine things that happen. It could have been a week ago and so on and so on. And you start to feel bad. And then you get into a bad mood. And then if you do this consistently, what happens is it becomes easier and easier to relive those experiences. And then it gets to a point where you don't even need to imagine the whole experience in detail, the whole memory in detail. Just one thought alone can trigger all those neural associations in your brain, and therefore affect you chemically as well, neurochemicals in your brain, and that will flood the body and affect your hormones through your organs, your adrenals, and so on and so forth. Your glands, and this is how the stress response gets turned on. It can get turned on so easily. So that's why I teach mindful based strategies such as meditation, such as deep breathing, such as heart and brain coherence, as ways of shutting down the stress response, of detaching from these hardwired programs and the toxic chemical addictions that we accumulate over time. So these are some of the ways that you can overcome stressful situations. How else can you overcome stressful situations? I keep talking about exercise. I teach HIIT workouts pretty much once every 2 weeks on this YouTube channel. Do them. There's a reason why I'm doing them. This channel is all about health, happiness, abundance, spirituality, progress, achieving your dreams, achieving your goals, and it's all a process. Small things done every day lead to monumental, remarkable results. It's just the way life is. It's just that because of the media and so on, we only hear of, this person became a millionaire, this person achieved this and that, this person succeeded in business, but you don't hear about how they did it. You just think, oh, they must be so talented or so lucky, because we have our own narrative that we tell ourselves as to why we haven't accomplished the same sort of things that we might want to. But we need to detach from our egos and go, okay, I'm just hearing a certain side of things. What are these people? That's why I study people, like NLP, right? This is why I model after highly successful people as it relates to their health, abundance, spirituality, relationships, and so on and so forth. If you do what other successful people do in these avenues, you will get similar or equal, sometimes even better results. So this is why I harp on and on about having great mentors as well, or learning or indoctrinating yourself in quality content and material. And that's what I do to hopefully help you guys. I do my best to be that for you. So how can you recover more quickly from stressful situations? Deep breathing is key. Because say you've had a stressful experience and you're starting to get worked up, stressed out, and whatever kind of physiological adaptations take over whenever you get stressed out, right? And the sympathetic nervous system gets turned on, your heart rate starts to increase, your pupils dilate so you can see far distance, so you can run, blood rushes to your limbs, your hands, your feet, and so on, to prepare you to run or to fight, and so on and so forth, rather than going to your internal organs, the rest and digest system, parasympathetic nervous system, instead will not get turned on. So the way you stop that whole process from taking over is deep breathing. When you breathe deeply, your brain slows down. When you slow the brain down, your frontal lobe can come to the forefront. Your brainwave state drops from high beta, which is all about high stress, chronic stress. This is how 70% of most people spend their lives, and you're going to want to drop down, and that's what deep breathing and genuine focus and genuine compassion and connection with your heart, feeling grateful for what you have in your life, and that deep breathing, you slow the brain down, and the frontal lobe, which is what I talked to you about earlier, takes over. And like an orchestra, it starts to play a symphony, and the rest of the brain starts to work rhythmically, coherently. And then you start to think at your best. Then you can start to be more resourceful, more creative, make better choices, rather than acting out of stress, being impulsive, being egotistical and flimsy and impulsive with your decision making. That's how you can recover from stressful situations. Breathing and changing what things mean to you. Okay? And those are some of the main things. Your nutrition will again help. How do you recover from stressful situations? Changing what things mean to you. Addressing through Gestalt therapy, like the first times in your life where you experienced key negative emotions, some key negative survival-based emotions, because when you address those primal and primary situations, then any future situations that can be linked to that, you're not going to suffer from them as drastically as you might have before, because you addressed what you experienced maybe in your childhood or in your adolescence when you experienced anger or disappointment or frustration or anxiety or fear for the first time. So you need to reflect. You can't just put a band-aid on a wound and hope and keep doing the things that caused that wound in the first place. No. You need to address the very first time where the wound was opened. Yeah, this is a metaphor, guys. So, yeah, these are the sort of things that you might want to start to think about, so that you can calm yourself, appease yourself more readily, more easily, more frequently, so that you stop the stress response from taking over your state of being and what you start to attract and move toward. Because stress results in default mode. If you're living in default mode, you're going to keep doing the same sort of things because your brain wants to just conserve itself and reserve itself for any really important emergency threats. So it starts to only run the patterns that it's familiar with just to keep things steady and easy. Yeah?